Laura Matthews sat quietly on the edge of the living room couch in her Seattle apartment, listening to the soft patter of rain against the windows, her mind racing as she waited for her mother-in-law, Diane, to finish tidying the kitchen, because today felt different from every other day Diane had visited. There was a tension in the air that Laura couldn't ignore, a mixture of nervous anticipation and a strange sense of opportunity, since her husband Mark had left early for a long meeting and she had the house to herself with Diane, whose presence always carried a subtle mix of warmth and scrutiny, the kind that made Laura feel observed, even when nothing was wrong, and yet today she had a plan that required careful timing and careful words, a plan that needed Diane to trust her completely, at least for a little while, and Laura felt her heart beating faster as Diane stepped into the living room with a basket of folded laundry, smiling politely but with that sharp, watchful gaze that seemed to measure every movement and expression. And Laura knew that the slightest misstep could unravel everything, that one wrong word or gesture might make Diane suspicious of what Laura truly intended. So she took a deep breath and invited Diane to sit on the couch beside her, keeping her tone light and conversational as she began sharing a story about a family gathering, recalling small, harmless details that Diane would recognize, like the smell of cookies baking in the kitchen, or the way the living room had been decorated last holiday, weaving these memories into a casual narrative that appeared completely innocent, but subtly guided Diane into a mindset of trust and ease, so that when Laura leaned slightly closer to lower her voice, speaking softly about a shared joke or a moment of connection that might have seemed trivial to anyone else, Diane would not suspect the underlying purpose, and as the rain continued to fall outside, filling the room with a rhythmic, soothing backdrop, Laura's confidence grew slowly with every nod and smile Diane gave, each one reinforcing that the strategy was working, that the delicate balance between secrecy and comfort could be maintained. And for a moment, Laura allowed herself a quiet thrill, a sense of control in a situation that required both subtlety and emotional awareness, knowing that Diane's attention was focused entirely on the story, on the warmth of the shared memory, on the laughter and nostalgia, and not on Laura's true intent, which was to create a safe, private space on the couch that felt entirely natural and harmless, so that when the time came, everything could proceed without drawing attention. And Laura felt her pulse steady just slightly as she continued weaving the narrative, carefully choosing her words, letting the conversation flow naturally, sprinkling in small questions that invited Diane to reminisce, to participate, to feel comfortable and engaged, while the underlying plan remained completely hidden. And as Diane laughed at a recalled incident, her eyes sparkling with amusement and recognition, Laura realized that the room had transformed from ordinary to charged with a quiet, almost electric tension, one that was invisible to anyone who might have walked in, yet deeply real between them, and Laura felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension, because the success of this plan relied entirely on her ability to maintain that balance, to keep Diane engaged in the story while guiding her perception, so that the couch, the shared space, and the quiet moments between them could exist without suspicion, creating a bubble of trust and connection that allowed Laura to move forward with her delicate plan, all while maintaining a tone of complete innocence. And in that moment, as the rain tapped softly on the glass and Diane's attention remained fully captivated by the shared narrative, Laura felt both the thrill and the weight of responsibility, knowing that this afternoon could change the dynamic of their relationship in subtle ways, testing her ability to navigate emotion, persuasion, and familial trust with precision. And though everything seemed calm on the surface, every heartbeat, every glance, and every carefully chosen word carried significance, building toward the quiet, tense, yet entirely controlled unfolding of the plan she had set in motion. And by the time Diane leaned back on the couch, smiling softly and fully engaged in the harmless story, Laura knew that the first phase of her strategy had succeeded, that the fragile thread of trust and distraction had been established, and that the next moments would depend entirely on the continuation of this delicate, emotionally intelligent choreography, all occurring in a single quiet living room on a rainy Seattle afternoon, with tension, anticipation, and subtle triumph woven seamlessly together. Laura felt a cautious thrill as Diane continued to sit beside her on the couch, fully engaged in the story Laura had carefully crafted, and though every word, every pause, and every glance required precise control, she realized that Diane's natural warmth and curiosity were working in her favor, making the delicate balance between trust and subtle persuasion much easier to maintain than she had expected. Because Diane laughed at the little jokes and chimed in with her own memories, recalling small family events, holiday mishaps, and shared experiences that seemed innocent but allowed Laura to gently guide the conversation toward the private moment she wanted to create, keeping Diane's attention fully on the nostalgic details and not on the undercurrent of tension that Laura carried in her chest, so when she suggested they shift slightly closer to adjust the blanket on the couch or arrange the cushions, it felt natural, ordinary, and entirely part of the story they were sharing, rather than an intrusion or a signal of something more intimate, and Diane accepted it with a relaxed smile, unaware that every movement was part of a carefully choreographed plan, and as the rain outside continued its soft rhythm, Laura noticed the subtle cues that Diane gave, tiny nods, quiet laughs, the way her eyes lingered on Laura with gentle interest, each one confirming that the trust she had cultivated was holding firm, and that the couch, once a simple piece of furniture, had become the stage for an intricate dance of perception, comfort, and emotional nuance, allowing Laura to create a private space that felt completely innocent while also carrying the unspoken understanding of what could happen if the opportunity arose. And she felt a mixture of exhilaration and nervousness as the moment stretched on, knowing that a single misstep could undo the careful balance she had worked to achieve, but also aware that the careful weaving of memories, laughter, and shared attention was gradually loosening Diane's natural caution, allowing the afternoon to unfold in a way that was both relaxed and charged with quiet energy. And as Diane leaned back slightly, recalling a particularly funny incident from a family vacation, Laura used the pause to subtly reinforce her point, speaking in soft tones about the importance of closeness, trust, and understanding between family members, using phrases that sounded ordinary but subtly primed Diane to feel that the shared space on the couch was entirely acceptable and harmless, and every word, every gesture, every laugh was a step in a delicate sequence that Laura had to maintain with absolute focus, because while Diane seemed relaxed and unaware, the underlying tension of secrecy and careful persuasion remained, and the longer the moment lasted, the more Laura felt the thrill of control, of emotional intelligence applied with precision, and the quiet success of seeing Diane fully engaged in the story, laughing, reminiscing, and adjusting her position on the couch, gave Laura a subtle confidence that the private moment she hoped for could be achieved without alarming or disturbing her mother-in-law. And even though the rain softened outside, leaving faint streaks on the window, the room felt cocooned in a private world of trust, shared memories, and gentle attention, where the story flowed naturally, each detail building the illusion of complete innocence while the deeper plan moved forward unobserved. And Laura felt her pulse steady just slightly as she guided the conversation with care, knowing that by the end of this extended, delicate interaction, she would have successfully created the safe, private space she needed on the couch, all while maintaining Diane's complete trust and the appearance of ordinary familial warmth, laughter, and shared nostalgia, transforming the rainy afternoon into a quiet, emotionally charged moment that felt innocent to anyone watching, but was the culmination of careful planning, emotional awareness, and subtle persuasion, a combination that allowed Laura to manage the delicate dance of secrecy, trust, and understanding with finesse, creating an atmosphere where Diane could feel comfortable, relaxed, and fully present, allowing the afternoon to unfold with a sense of connection, laughter, and gentle intimacy, leaving Laura with the quiet satisfaction that her strategy had succeeded and the anticipation of the next phase of the plan, fully under the guise of ordinary family interaction and entirely appropriate conversation, blending humor, warmth, and trust into a seamless, emotionally rich sequence that moved the story forward without breaking the tension or revealing the underlying intent. The room grew quieter as the rain outside slowed to a gentle drizzle, leaving streaks of water glinting in the soft afternoon light, and Laura realized that the delicate balance she had maintained on the couch with Diane was entering its most critical phase, because though Diane had been laughing, sharing memories, and fully engaged in the story Laura had carefully woven, a subtle flicker of curiosity crossed her mother-in-law's face, a slight narrowing of the eyes that hinted she was beginning to notice something deeper beneath the casual conversation, and Laura felt a brief twinge of anxiety, knowing she needed to respond quickly and skillfully to maintain trust without raising suspicion. So she leaned slightly closer, keeping her voice soft, steady, and inviting, as she recounted another shared family anecdote, one that sounded completely ordinary but subtly reinforced the sense of safety and harmlessness surrounding their shared space on the couch, and Diane responded with a thoughtful nod, her expression softening again, though the brief flash of doubt reminded Laura that nothing could be taken for granted, that every word, every gesture, every pause mattered in the intricate dance of perception she was navigating. And as she continued, Laura used gentle humor, light laughter, and carefully chosen memories to guide Diane's attention entirely toward the story, making the interaction feel natural, warm, and entirely innocent, all while creating a private, emotional bubble in which Laura could maintain control of the moment. And the rhythmic tapping of the rain against the window seemed to echo the heartbeat of the tense, delicate situation unfolding, reinforcing the awareness that each second mattered, that the slightest change in tone or body language could either cement Diane's trust or unravel the subtle web Laura had spun, and Diane, leaning back slightly on the couch, relaxed once more, laughing softly at the recollections of holiday mishaps and small family adventures, allowing Laura to feel a surge of quiet triumph as she recognized that the trust and comfort she had cultivated were holding strong. Yet she remained vigilant, knowing the next moments were crucial, that this was the tipping point where perception, patience, and emotional nuance could either preserve the careful illusion or expose the unspoken intent, and Laura moved. With deliberate subtlety, letting her body language, facial expressions, and vocal tone work together seamlessly to communicate innocence, warmth, and normalcy, ensuring Diane's mind stayed anchored in the memories and laughter they were sharing, oblivious to the underlying layers of strategy, intent, and emotional choreography. And as Diane recounted a memory of a family gathering, pausing occasionally to laugh or nod, Laura mirrored her tone and expressions, reinforcing comfort and connection while carefully guiding the atmosphere to feel completely safe and ordinary, and every small gesture, a hand on the couch cushion, a slight shift in seating, a quiet chuckle, served to build a cocoon of trust around the subtle tension Laura carried, a tension that was thrilling but controlled, blending anxiety and exhilaration as she navigated the fine line between persuasion and discretion. And as the afternoon light filtered through the curtains, casting soft patterns on the floor, Laura recognized that the couch had transformed into more than just furniture. It had become a stage for delicate negotiation, emotional awareness, and silent communication, where every detail mattered, from the tone of a laugh to the timing of a pause, each reinforcing the carefully constructed narrative, and Diane, completely absorbed in the shared memories and humor, remained unaware of the intricate layers of strategy guiding Laura's every movement, allowing the moment to feel organic, warm, and entirely innocent, while beneath the surface, Laura experienced the quiet intensity of managing perception, trust, and subtle influence, knowing that the success of this afternoon depended on the seamless execution of this delicate dance. And as the rain tapered off, leaving only the faint smell of wet pavement drifting through the slightly open window, Laura felt the thrill of mastery tempered by the persistent awareness of fragility that even now, the delicate equilibrium could shift if she faltered, and yet she continued with confidence, letting the rhythm of conversation, the shared laughter, and the careful storytelling carry them both through the tense, emotionally charged afternoon, culminating in a moment where Diane's relaxed posture, soft smiles, and attentive engagement confirmed that the intricate web of trust, distraction, and subtle persuasion had held perfectly, allowing Laura to achieve the private space and emotional control she had carefully engineered, all while maintaining the appearance of completely ordinary family interaction, laughter, and warmth. A seamless blend of subtle strategy, emotional intelligence, and heartfelt connection that left the room charged with quiet triumph, anticipation, and the knowledge that the delicate phase of their afternoon had been successfully navigated without raising suspicion, creating a story of patience, subtlety, and emotional awareness that would linger in Laura's memory long after Diane had left the couch, unbroken and entirely unsuspecting. By the time Diane finally stood to leave, the rain had stopped completely, leaving the streets outside glistening under soft, diffuse light. And Laura felt a deep sense of relief, mixed with exhilaration, because the delicate plan she had executed on the couch had worked flawlessly, with every word, gesture, and carefully timed pause, maintaining the illusion of innocence while creating a private, unspoken understanding between them, and Diane, still smiling warmly, hugged Laura briefly, chatting lightly about the memories they had shared and the laughter of the afternoon, completely unaware of the tension, strategy, and subtle persuasion that had guided every moment. And as Diane walked to her car and drove away, Laura closed the door quietly, feeling the adrenaline of the successful navigation of emotional nuance and trust, knowing that the afternoon had been a delicate dance of perception, patience, and subtle influence, all performed in a single, emotionally charged space that had felt ordinary to anyone else, but had been intensely layered beneath the surface. And as Laura moved back into the living room, straightening the cushions and tidying the small details, she reflected on the extraordinary attention to timing, tone, and expression that had allowed her to create a private moment of control and subtle intimacy while preserving the appearance of completely harmless family interaction, realizing that this experience had not only strengthened her awareness of emotional intelligence, but also revealed how small, carefully considered actions could shape perception and interaction in ways that felt effortless and natural. And when Mark returned home later that evening, he noticed immediately the calm warmth in the room, the soft light reflecting on the polished surfaces, the faint scent of the rain lingering in the air. And Laura greeted him with her usual composure, a quiet smile hinting at the success of her careful afternoon strategy. And as Mark commented on the relaxed atmosphere, Laura spoke naturally, sharing casual details of the visit without revealing the subtle choreography that had unfolded, maintaining the seamless balance between honesty and discretion. And throughout the evening, as the household settled into quiet routines, Laura felt the lingering awareness of her ability to navigate complex emotional dynamics with subtlety and grace, understanding that the afternoon on the couch had been more than a simple family moment. It had been a masterclass in trust, patience, and emotional intelligence, demonstrating that connection, laughter, and warmth could coexist with careful strategy without conflict or suspicion. And as she reflected on Diane's relaxed demeanor, the gentle smiles, the engaging stories, and the shared understanding that had gone completely unnoticed by anyone else, Laura felt a quiet pride, realizing that the afternoon had created a lasting impact on her confidence, her perception of family, relationships, and her ability to manage delicate interactions with poise because she had successfully balanced tension, anticipation, and subtle persuasion in a single space, allowing the interaction to feel natural, innocent, and deeply connected while achieving her goal of creating a private, controlled moment on the couch. And as the evening light faded, casting long shadows across the living room, Laura sat back for a moment, breathing in the calm after the carefully navigated storm, appreciating the subtle artistry of emotional awareness, timing, and tact that had made the entire encounter not only successful, but quietly transformative, leaving her with the knowledge that even in ordinary settings, moments of trust, understanding, and gentle control could be created with precision and care. and that the laughter, memories, and warmth shared on that rainy Seattle afternoon would remain in her mind as a testament to her ability to manage complex emotional situations with maturity, subtlety, and grace, proving that even seemingly simple family interactions could carry deep layers of meaning, emotional impact, and personal triumph, all while maintaining a fully innocent, natural, and relatable appearance that preserved trust and strengthened bonds, leaving Laura with a profound sense of satisfaction, confidence, and quiet exhilaration as the night settled around her, the room now calm and peaceful, and the events of the afternoon etched in her memory as a masterful display of patience, subtlety, and emotional intelligence.